Hi everyone, welcome to HubShots episode 315. This episode is about HubSpot updates that matter. It's going to help you navigate the overwhelm of HubSpot releases. In this edition, we'll dive into the releases that we love the most. So we'll go through some of the things like the Buyer Intent Tool, the HubSpot Meeting Recorder, the Customer Agent, the Company Research Agent, the Deal Loss Agent, and Smart Properties. Craig, how are you?
Really well. We're recording this on a Friday. Normally it's a Wednesday, but it's just been such a busy, hectic week. Must be that time of the year. Everyone I chat to is busy on the race to Christmas. Well, Christmas is coming. It's only middle of October. Everyone's planning. But look, I think this is, we've chatted about this and we'll chat a little bit more in detail about the overwhelm problem, but we've got a bunch of resources to help you. And there's our HubShots community course. We do tailored HubSpot updates that matter sessions with our existing customers. We're going to open that actually up to new customers in the coming weeks, where we actually look at their portal. We spend a bit of time looking at their portal and then saying, hey, here's the updates that you need, because it helps them get signal from the noise. And also they can book time with us, Ian. We've got a new quick check offering on the HubShots site, so people can have a look at that, book in with us. But I did want to chat a section, Ian, is just around HubSpot credits. People are so confused about what HubSpot credits are and will they go crazy. Have you had customers kind of confused by this, or is it just me?
No. I think a lot of people are, Craig, and people get caught out because they're using stuff in beta that don't use credits. And then when credits come into play, they're like, oh, hang on a second. Where did all my credits go? Most common one comes like, why is this not working? Why has it stopped working?
Yeah. And
so generally people, especially people that are on the legacy billing that haven't moved to the new billing, don't have credits. So we're in the same spot. We bought some credits, but there are customers of ours that have been with HubSpot for 10 years, don't have credits as yet. They haven't transitioned their account and they're trying all of these new features. And then when they start charging, they suddenly get cut off. So need to be aware of that when we're talking about this.
I think that's a really good point, because people are on different kind of subscription settings, and it's hard to give advice that applies to everyone. I think what I'll highlight though, because I think we're a legacy portal. We're 13 years. I think we've been using HubSpot, and we've been just switched over to the new model. And I think people have been burnt in the past with the whole marketing contacts. They'd get bumped up a tier. They couldn't control it. Suddenly they're getting charged more. And then even worse, probably one of the worst things I think HubSpot's ever done is you can't go back until your next renewal. So it's like, I accidentally went over. Okay, I'll just clear them out. Oh, why doesn't it go back down? Oh no, sorry. I think that's one of the evil things HubSpot's done. Very few things I really dislike, but that was one of them. And the impact of that is still, that's causing people anxiety. And so when the HubSpot credits thing rolled out, they're like, I don't want to get burnt. I've heard all those stories about people getting burnt with marketing contacts. They're like, what are we going to do? Thankfully, HubSpot has very carefully thought about this, and the controls that are in place that they've got, especially with people on the new portals, are really good. So you have an overage setting, and we've got screenshots of this in the show notes, where you can set it to just pay as you go, which means you have a certain number of credits in your account each month. And if you hit that limit, it just stops. And for most people, I would say set it to pay as you go. Only go to auto upgrade once you're clear on what that might mean. You might say, well, why would I go auto upgrade? Well, it's that scenario you just mentioned, Ian. You've got agents, maybe you've got Customer Agent, which we'll chat about later. Fantastic agent. And you don't want it just stopping in the middle of the month. You actually want it to continue. So that's where auto upgrade might actually be something that you apply. But in managing their credits, I think they've done really well. They've got this nice layout, tells you what's consuming the credits. You can see how rapidly that's been happening and how many credits you have left. Do you have this new kind of approach in your portal as well, Ian?
Yes.
Yeah,
I do, Craig, because we did purchase credits. So I am seeing that exactly like you were seeing it.
Yeah, and one of the things to highlight when you see this breakdown, and if you're watching this on YouTube or you got the show notes, they do break down the credits by usage by feature, and one of them is enrichment. And I'm happy to say that enrichment will always be 0 credits consumed from now on if you've got a paid seat, Ian, because data enrichment is included. We can't say free, can we, Ian? We can only say included if you've got
That's
paid.
right. It is included, Craig.
It's included, which is great. So basically go through, make sure you enrich all your contacts and companies.
I think the big thing for people to remember is that do not be afraid of the credits. Take some time to understand it, because I feel that there is a lot to be gained from the utilization of credits in the agents that are being pushed out. So you've got to really switch the way you think. And I guess we'll cover this over episodes that are coming up. But I think that that's really what I want to highlight to people, is that do not be afraid, but be educated on how it's utilizing it and what it can utilize it and what makes the most sense in your business. Because I often think about how much it would cost to have somebody do it physically versus paying for a credit to have that job done. So I think about that. Think of the time saved. Think of the output. Think that the agent never sleeps. That's a big thing. And I think you'll start to see the benefits of actually using the credits to keep your system updated, your CRM updated, essentially. Onto the update overwhelm, Craig.
So look, here's the problem, and this is what we're trying to help guide people with this episode. There are so many updates. I think people realize this. They go into their product update section and they see literally hundreds. I mean, I've got a screenshot from our portal and we're across a lot of things. And in beta at the moment, there's more than 100 different features. Like, this is massive. That's just betas. Then there's other updates rolling out. So it's totally understandable that people are completely overwhelmed to the point where they actually don't try anything. They don't join betas. They're not trying new tools. They're not even aware of new tools. They're just kind of like, how do I cope? So that's why we've done, well, a few things. We have a course in our HubShots community where we've called it Updates That Matter. And we just highlight the bare minimum. So it's not overwhelming. There's maybe, 3 to 5 each week that we might detail as worth using. And even then we give them a red, amber, green traffic light indicator whether they're really important. So check those out. But even more refined is we're going to talk about our favorite ones from the year so far. And you mentioned this at the top, but we're going to start with the Buyer Intent Tool. We've already mentioned that enrichment is now included. That's probably our favorite, isn't it? Data enrichment's now included. But
that's right.
If we look at the actual features, we'll go into, in fact, my top 3 would be Buyer Intent Tool, HubSpot Meeting Recorder, and Customer Agent in that order. What would be your top 3, Ian?
I would probably say the Buyer Intent Tool, Meeting Recorder, Customer Agent, I would have to say has gotten up there. But I've been really enjoying using smart properties with different businesses, Craig. It's like saved a lot of time.
Cool. All right, well, let's jump into it. Let's go with Buyer Intent Tool. I think we both consider this one of our favorites. We do have a full walkthrough of this in our HubShots community course as well. Link to that in the show notes. If you haven't joined the community, you can join the waitlist. It is still free to join for now. And we've also recorded videos on this in the past. But let's just chat through, what is the Buyer Intent Tool? Do you want to give an overview, Ian? Maybe how you use it?
Like it says, Craig, Buyer Intent. It basically picks up signals of people's intention to buy. Now, you obviously got to set this up, right? This is where a lot of input from yourselves are going to come. You got to know who you're targeting, who's in your ideal customer profile, and so on. And then what are the intent signals you're looking for? And so it's really interesting because as HubSpot has all this data, or it's collecting and getting data from different places, they can now tell the intent of people or businesses if they're in a buying intent, which is really fascinating, right? So target markets is really important. Do they already belong to inside HubSpot as your existing companies, let's say? And so it gives you the ability to filter those out, but also get more from that in that perspective. So it's very useful. Does take time to set up. I'm not going to say that it's like a flick the switch and it works. Everything takes time and thought and effort. So I think it's well worth putting in the time to set up the Buyer Intent Tool, especially if you're in a B2B business.
Totally agree. And look, at its simplest, what is it? It's a listing of the companies that have visited your website. And we've got screenshots there of, what it might look like. Companies visit your website, not the contacts. So you don't know the actual person, but you do know the company they're from. And the intent signals could be based on what they're researching, or it could be pages. For example, you might say if they visit the pricing page, set that as an intent signal, and that'll flow up. You can see how many pages they've visited within a time frame, etc. And as you said, setting up existing markets, that's the really important thing. So we've spent a bit of time being very specific on our target markets so that if those companies meet that criteria, they show. And if they don't show. I don't want to see all that noise. So it's really about getting signal from the noise. And then some of the really nice features, we'll automatically add that company to your CRM. I actually have that turned on. And then you can actually get daily email digests of those companies. So I really like getting that. Here's the 6 or 7 companies meeting your target market that visited your website yesterday. I see that every morning and I'm like, great. I can look at a few of those. Hang on, I was chatting to that company, or I know they crossed my path. I'll reach out to them. And one of the things I've been doing based on this, Ian, is if I see particularly good or interested companies, I'll then actually just go to Apollo and look up, say, the marketing manager from that company, and then I can just reach out and connect. And it's very simple because that might be a cold outreach email, but you can say, if I'm contacting marketing, or sometimes I'll contact the owner or the CEO of the business, I'll say, hey, I can see that a bunch of your team were on the site, just check if you're, wanted to chat, or forward them my details. I'll just do some things like that. Because if someone has visited the site 30 page views or more, there's probably something there. So I've been showing this to a lot of companies and the sales teams as well as the marketing teams. I think and that's why it's my favorite tool. That's why I talk about it all the time. Very powerful. And the great thing is it's improving all the time. They've added this new signals tab, which is hit and miss, I have to say, but it tracks things. I think it looks at LinkedIn a lot. Are there people moving job roles? Is there company news? All that kind of stuff. I've set that up. Now that signals part does consume credits, by the way. I'll happily pay for those credits to get that insight. Yeah.
And so does the add to company, Craig. Add companies to HubSpot.
That consumes credits, does it? The ad
it does. It consumes a credit. It consumes 10, I think.
I didn't know that. Okay. There you go. I'll happily pay for that as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one less thing you have to do, right?
I've got thousands of credits included in my current plan, so I'll happily. I don't think I've ever used all my credits in a month. So.
Neither have I. So, if anything, I need to actually make sure I use it and have nothing left at the end of the month.
And so, final comment: does this work on all websites? If you've got a HubSpot Content Hub hosted website, it'll work automatically. If you've got a WordPress site, you just need to make sure you've got the HubSpot tracking code on there. And yes, you can enable this on your website as well. Definitely check it out and check out our full course on that. All right, what's next, Ian?
All right, the next we're going to talk about the HubSpot Meeting Recorder and Sales Meeting Note Taker. So I would liken this to the Meeting Recorder like Fathom or Avoma, if any of you have used that. And so this is built into HubSpot. The whole idea is that it will join your meetings and it will record it and take note, basically transcribe it and put it against the contact and the company. So very useful if you are not using a meeting note taker. Now, I do note that it does require a sales seat for that to happen. So people with sales seats, you can enable this for. And in relation to the rest of this, currently is in beta and doesn't use credits, but it will use credits in the future. So just be aware of that. If you enable this and you're using it and testing it out, that this is what will happen. Now, the other problem this solves, and this is probably part B of this, is that there is a meeting note taker that runs on the iOS app where you can set that up to basically record an in-person meeting. And so you can then get the transcription, but you don't get the transcription. And this is where I need to clarify to people. It will record it, it'll do the transcription, and then it deletes the recording. So it's available. And this is mainly for privacy, to alleviate any privacy concerns, because I know in lots of face-to-face meetings, people are like, what are you recording this? So, yes, it is really just to take notes, and it puts the notes in, and then the transcription is, the voice is gone. And so I think if you go looking for it as a record call inside HubSpot, you're not going to find it. But if you go to the meeting, you'll see the transcription of the meeting there, post that.
I think this is a really interesting decision by them for how it does that and deletes it. And we could have a whole episode chatting about the pros and cons of that. I'm going to avoid that. It's not going to add any value to this. But I think I actually haven't tried this. And when you've highlighted it to me, I was like, wow, I'm actually going to try that. Few meetings, see how it goes.
And you know what, Craig? As I was, and I don't spend as much time as I should in the app, I was clicking away, and you'll see the screenshot, is that there's like your whole calendar is actually in there now because you sync your calendar in there, right? And I remember just seeing it as a list of meetings, but now I'm like, oh, I can actually see the calendar in there, which is really fascinating because like they've kind of like replicated like your whole functionality. Like if you had it, let's say you got given a work phone, it had nothing on it, right? And all you had was HubSpot, the app. You could pretty much run everything from that device, most of the things, because you can call out of it. You can you could initiate an SMS out of it. You can log your emails. You can track the emails. You could set up the meetings. Like it's pretty phenomenal when you think about it. And I'm pretty sure that there are people that have no idea that it's in there. And the other one I love, not related to meetings, is the keyboard that's available that accesses your meeting links and etc.
You're right. And you know, the app, because I don't use it much as well, I have to admit, whereas I know some of our clients, they're using it all the time. Their sales teams just love it.
Correct.
Got to use it more. But this actually highlights one of the big problems with all these updates. You know, it's like, I used the HubSpot app a couple of months ago and it didn't have this, and I haven't made the effort to go and check what's updated. And it's the same with agents that we'll chat about lately. We try these agents when they're in beta and we go, oh yeah, it's kind of a bit half-baked, and we forget about it. And we've got to have this discipline where we go back to it every week or so and go, oh wow, it's actually changed. Yeah, of course it's changed. It's in beta, and yet we're just all overwhelmed. We don't have time.
All right, the next one we're going to talk about is the customer agent. And you know what? This is one of those ones where it just keeps getting better every week. And it used to be just in Service Hub. It's now available across the platform. So anybody can set this up and use it. It does consume credits because it's out of beta. It consumes 100 credits per conversation. If you're in the US, it's about $1 a conversation. If you're in Australia, about $1.40 a conversation. And then I was doing some research, like if you think you had an average, if you had hired somebody to do this, it's about $3 to $6 for a human agent to respond. So that's some of the things to be aware of. Now, what is lovely about the customer agent is that it can span across sales, it can span across service and operations. And you know what, Craig, it's just become so good. And I'll give you an example. We were testing this with a software client the other day, and they said they have a lot of information on their website. And I think one of the things with the agent is you've got to be able to feed it information, right? Documents, knowledge base, website pages. It can look at external sources as well. I'll give you a little example of this. It knew that when I asked it for a particular feature of this software, it found the information and gave it to me. And the screenshots you're seeing are testing mode. Now, the one I'm talking about is not the one you're seeing in the screenshot. But after I'd asked a few questions about this particular module in this software, and then I said, can I get a demo of it? It actually said, oh, sure, we can organize a demo for this software focusing on this module. Would you like to book it here? I was like, oh, wow. It had so much context to know that was my problem that I was trying to solve. I'm asking for a demo now, and it says, I'm going to highlight in the demo this particular thing that you're after. And that kind of like changed the whole thing. That made me realize how much or how good it's become now. And so even the screenshots I've put in the show, this is a customer of ours that sells sales. Like even they were amazed. They were like, oh, wow. Like, because they've got a large catalog of sales that they sell globally, right? And it was able to, when people put particular numbers of sales, it goes and has a look and tells them what it has. And the other thing I love about it is that the opportunity for all of us is the knowledge gaps. Because as people ask, it finds out what it doesn't know, and it starts to highlight the knowledge gaps to us, which means that we've got to write more content around it. We've got to feed it better answers around that. Or even to the point of if you've got the knowledge base agent, it'll go and try and research that and create the knowledge base article for you. So this is where we're heading. And I think if you are early to the party, there is a lot to be gained here in terms of utilization. Now, it's coming to the point where Customer Agent can now update data inside HubSpot. It can even talk to other systems. So if you say, hey, I want to find out where my sale is, and we know that the sale is at a particular point, you could query like the postal system and say, oh, for this order number, tell me where it's at and give me the status of it. So it's kind of exciting what's going to happen with Customer Agent.
I agree. Customer Agent is one of the standouts, and it's got so much potential, and it does consume 100 credits per conversation, probably the highest cost consumption, Correct. I'd say, but worth it because of what the potential is to do here. I'll just highlight for people listening and maybe not seeing this, when Ian was talking about selling sales, this is sales on a yacht, in case you're wondering, sales? How do you sell sales? Okay, sales on a yacht, just in case people didn't realize. Customer Agent. So a few comments about this. Yeah, this and taking it out of Service Hub and just making it available across the platform is a fantastic move. I'm always surprised at each of some of the tools in HubSpot. They could almost be businesses in their own right. I'll give you an example. One of my favorites is the cookie consent tool in HubSpot.
Yes.
Right? It's this hidden gem where all your cookie consent, GDPR and all of that, it's all there. It's just this tool hiding away in HubSpot. I'm like, there are some businesses where that's their pure business, selling
Correct.
That software, right?
Yeah.
And there it is, almost just included for free. Well, not for free, but you know what I mean? It's just included in HubSpot, in Content Hub. And then I look at Customer Agent. I go, this could be an entire business just on its own. It's sitting here just as an agent in HubSpot. It is by far one of the strongest agents in the whole suite so far. And it is so feature rich already. Is it still in beta? I don't know, but
no, it's not.
It's out of beta because it is so mature now. And some of the conversations we have with clients, they're like, oh, but isn't that just like the chat flows before? And we're like, well, yes. Is chat my favorite interface? Well, no, but it's so much better because before with chat flows, you'd ask a question and it had to keyword match in order to give you Correct. An answer, right? So you'd say, how much does it cost? And because it didn't match on the word price, it would say, sorry, can't help you. So that's like a simplest example, whereas Customer Agent will just use AI and the LLM is going, oh, you're talking about cost. Of course, that means price or quote or estimate or whatever, right? So it's got context. And as you said, it can be based on other systems, but also the underlying data and knowledge that you give us. And that's the important thing because we keep turning on Customer Agent and then turning it off on our website. Because as we further test it, we go, oh, actually it's pulling on content that's out of date. And we go, oh, we better update. Oh, there's all these old knowledge-based articles. Right, we've got to update it. Oh, hang on, some of that information on the page is wrong. We've got to update that. So we actually turn off Customer Agent at times and then go, oh, hang on, we've got to fix the underlying.
So here's what I want to tell people, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to actually highlight that because that is one of the things that it has highlighted to people.
Yeah.
Content that's out of date. What I do want to say is if you need to update it, you can actually take it out of the agent. You can remove it from the agent's knowledge to update it so it doesn't show up, right? So that is possible. So I would almost say instead of turning things off and stopping or something, you'd be better off removing the content, having a plan to update it, and letting the agent run. Because I think the knowledge you will gain out of the agent, especially with the knowledge gaps, might be more valuable than actually having the agent not run.
Actually, you're probably right, Ian. Yeah, you're probably right. I agree. Okay, you've changed my mind on that. Or you've changed our process.
I think we need to do a whole episode on the Customer Agent, actually.
I think we could. It's such a yeah, well, let's leave it there. We've got to move on to others, but that's why it's definitely in our top 3.
All right, let's go.
All right,
talk about
next?
The company research agent, Craig.
Yeah. Okay, company research agent. Why have we included this? Because it is kind of still improving. And well, one of the things I want to highlight is that you can trigger it to run automatically. That's the first thing. Actually, I should say that for maybe not all, but for many of the agents, when they were initially rolling out, you'd kind of just run it manually. And I just want to highlight, well, that might have just a month ago or a lot's changed then. So go in and check. And where you should be heading is the configure button up the top right. So you go to the Breeze Agent Marketplace or whatever it's called. You install an agent. And then you can configure it. So we've got an example here of just running the company research agent. We just ran it on the HubShots domain to see what it gave back. And you can see beautiful report, gives you all the characteristics and audiences and, what sets us apart and all that. That's great. You've been able to do that with tons of other tools. Like that's not new as a concept, right? But what is really nice is how it's integrated in HubSpot now. You just head up to configure, and then not only can you easily change the instructions, but you can change what it does and what it's triggered on. So for example, we now run company agent on form submits, specific form submits. So I've got an example in the screen, in the show notes. Someone books in for a quick check, HubShots quick check, run the agent, and then there's an add to note action that you can add. So it'll just trigger automatically, and then it adds a note against that contact, adds a note with all the findings of that company research agent. Now that won't work if they've just kind of filled in the form with a Gmail address, because it won't know the associated company. But if there is a company email, then it finds the company domain and sets that up. So the summary, I think this is just another example of incremental improvement. You just apply this to your processes. It just becomes a normal part of everyday work. Company research agent, yeah, of course that runs. And there's also very similar things in AI actions in workflows. We're not going to chat about that today, where it's not quite company research agent, but you can actually look for company ICP details or company news. And that's part of a workflow that you can add as notes as well. So that's separate, but yeah, company research agent, check it out. And I think the main takeaway is, yep, you can trigger it based on criteria. It doesn't have to be manually
Craig,
run.
You know what? This agent. Okay, so I'll tell you. This is also a really core issue, right? There are a few businesses we work with where the CEO has executive assistants. This is all they do.
Yes.
They prepare these Word docs with what the company agent's doing before they're going to have a meeting with someone.
Yeah.
So I can see this being a massive time saver.
Exactly.
When it comes to life in general. All right, let's talk about the deal loss agent. This analyzes your deals that are lost. And what I like about it does take a bit of time to run. It generally will look at the first 50 deals. So like I would say, depending on your deal volume, think about how often you run this. You potentially run it. It'll tell you when it's running it for. Like I generally have been testing it on, tell me about the whole year, but then it'll tell me, oh, it's only looking at the first 50 plus closed lost deals. Now, what's nice about this, it's looking at all the data in HubSpot with the deal, with the contact, with the activity, etc. Right? So you're probably saying there is structured and there is unstructured data in here in terms of what's going on. And so it produces a really nice report. It's got an executive summary. It's got some thematic trends. It's got some sort of supporting data and examples, which was also really cool. Also giving you some sort of recommended action. So a few of our customers, because they sell products, right? And they sell higher end products. What a lot of their deal loss agents were feeding back to us or feeding back to them was like there was this mismatch in their sales process of what the cost was versus the expectation. So I don't think that they had addressed that. Oh, I'm not just using a middle of the road product. I'm going to use the best product for this, right? And so then people get the quote and they're like, oh, this is outside of my budget. So what that has enabled us to do is go, okay, so we need to actually now think about how do we educate people that we're not playing at this level, but we're playing at this level here. And how do we explain to them the differences so that they know that the product that they're buying and the service that they're buying from us is not the same as the other one that they're comparing it to. So it's been really useful in just understanding that and then framing things earlier in the process, especially with sales, framing that with the customer, or even us producing content that is educating the customer on what the differences are.
That's really nice. Yeah. And we covered that. By the way, you might think, oh, is that just a sales tool? Can include marketing process as well. And we chatted about that last episode.
Absolutely. All right. And finally, we're going to talk about smart properties. In this example, this is the data agent. And so the data agent can look at call transcripts. I'm sure this is going to keep becoming better. So there are a few things it can do. It can do web research. It can look at a company website. You can look at other property data. it can now look at call transcripts. And essentially, you have a prompt that tells it, the question I put is to look at the call transcripts and it says, if a contact has mentioned any challenges or pain points they're having, can you take them and stick it in a property? So that's what it does. So there's a property called, what have I called it, Craig? I can't even see. Pain
points mentioned, yes.
Yes. So that then takes that, goes through the call transcript, puts it in there. You can see quite easily. I've created a view where you have these smart properties, so you can see it really quickly. The other one I did was one of our customers were looking at when people were getting funding. So they're looking at their financial years. And so what happens, it goes and it checks company documents. And because a lot of these companies are all listed, they have prospectuses and so on, or financial reports. It goes through that and picks out, okay, their financial year is this month of the year, and then fills that property. So they know in their sales process when people are likely to have budget, so they can talk according to that with their customers or potential customers. So that's 2 examples of smart properties.
That's really nice. Now, I'm just going to mention, it's not directly related to this, or it may impact it. If you've got sensitive data protection turned on in your portal, when you've got, what's sensitive data, medical data and things like that, that's a certain type of property you can turn on. I think if you've got an enterprise portal, you can turn it on. We have it on in our portal, I know. That does affect some of these tools. I don't know if it affects smart properties directly based on transcripts, but I do know it impacts some of the meeting call recordings when you pull out pain points. So sensitive data won't. So just be aware of that. If you're getting unexpected results in some of these kinds of prompts, it can be due to that. But overall, yeah, these are fantastic. Smart properties, there you go. There's probably companies where that's their entire business model. We will enrich your CRM based on these kinds of things. We'll look at your CRM, we'll look at your latest calls, and we'll pull out pain points and that. As like a whole business. I'm like, well, no, HubSpot just gives you that as part of smart properties.
I think the other thing you want to note, I think I tried to do this, not on a company, but on a contact. I tried to get some information about a particular about that person, right? It said no personal identifiable information can be gathered.
Right.
So just be aware that if you think, oh, I've got this contact, or I know their name, or I've got their email, can you go fetch some other details? It's unlikely that it's going to go do that for privacy reasons. So it's not going to do that. But like we've given examples in the company realm, this is where the big unlock is. If I'm talking about what does this mean for you going forward, the data agent with smart properties, that's what's going to change.
Nice. So many cool tools. I mean, there's hundreds of new updates, but there's the 6 that we particularly like so far. And there's plenty more we cover in the Updates That Matter course. I know I've mentioned that a couple of times. We are starting to promote our HubShots community more now. We've been going almost a year, just quietly in the background, filling out courses and providing updates. Feel free to join the wait list there. What else can we recommend, Ian, before we close out the episode?
If you haven't signed up to the daily tip, I encourage you to sign up to the HubShots daily tip. Craig will send you a daily tip every day. And these are things that we find we've discovered over the time, and we've kind of put it together. So you'll get a daily tip at the same time every day. My goal is for you, just implement one thing or one thing every week, and you'll be ahead about 99% of your competition. So I encourage you to do that. It's a great way to stay connected and to be better at HubSpot. And if you are struggling with Overwhelm with HubSpot, I'd recommend getting the HubShots framework. It's something that we have developed to help you map out where you're at and then where you'd like to get to. So it's a great place. We've had lots of great feedback from people that are using it. So we encourage you, we do update it often because things changed often. So get it, print it out, stick it on the wall, write all over it. I think have a plan and take away the angst of Overwhelm using HubSpot with the HubShots framework. Well, Craig, until next time.
Catch you later, Ian.